I'm just kidding. I don't like Josh. Ethan is my favorite. He wears my favorite color, pink.
Does look good.
Oh, thanks.
Single stitch.
Yeah.
Single stitch. Don't tell the secrets.
We are recording, by the way.
Don't tell the secrets. Oh, Lord. The handler is going to get in trouble. Oh, Lord. He goes away. He calls me. He beckons me.
Should we kill the AC and close the door? Or?
Yes, we should. Welcome to the behind the scenes. I think we'll be visited by Krampus. No, your identity is hidden. You can come onto the camera. Come on, little Krampus. Come on. There we go.
He is my favorite. We both lick the beard of Sir Ethan. Let's just say, how cool does Sir Editor-in-Chief Josh look with his camo hat?
Ta-da! There we go. Tell me when you're ready.
See?
Alright, let's roll.
Welcome to the State of the Ozarks podcast. This is Josh Heston, Editor-in-Chief.
And this is Ethan Grubach,
And we're talking about our Ozarks.
your community.
And this episode of Been Thinking About has been brought to you by Vintage Paris, coffee shop and roastery with Matt and Jessica Farmer.
Artist Christine Reitzel, Beauty from Light.
Josh Huxtable, State of the Ozarks patron.
Stafford's Barbershop and Shave Company, the place for men in downtown Branson.
Shepherd the Musical, rediscovering America's story.
Blue Rock Print Company, upgrade your look.
And the Taney County Health Department, creating opportunities for healthy lives in our communities. Yahoo!
Yeah,
And we're back.
we are.
We are back. It is nice weather, and we are rocking and rolling.
Yep, and I'm back.
You're back. It's good to have you back.
I know. It's good to be back.
You are rocking out that shirt.
Yes, I am.
And even though they're not a podcast partner yet, we're just gonna throw that out there that is a vintage Downing apparel piece. Hand-picked out by Rebecca Hoole.
Yeah.
Who is a State of the Ozarks member.
Yes. And for those of you who are watching the video, it is pink and it has cactus on it.
Yes.
And I like it. And for those of you who are just listening,
Yes.
picture it in your head.
Absolutely. Real men wear pink.
That's right.
And I've got to say, it looks good on you.
Thank you.
It's a nice, it really is. It's a good choice.
Yeah.
And I like, Southwestern stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Southwestern stuff
Oh, really?
in Southwestern Missouri,
Oh.
which is kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
In Southwest Missouri.
Mhm.
Land of cactus.
Or is it?
Well,
I mean, I've met a lot of...
we do have prickly pears.
Yeah. And prickly people.
Oh, the power of frontline.
I'm getting the stink eye over here.
Oh, yes, you are. But we got some neat stuff. Coming up this week. Writers Artist Night.
Yes.
Writers Artist Night is this Friday,
Yeah.
involving both writers and artists.
And night.
And night. It will be night by the time we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of night, the Order of the Wild Boar will be at State of the Ozarks Fest.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
I bet you did hear about that.
Yeah.
You've been following,
I have.
possibly against your will.
Depends if any of them are listening.
They're pretty cool.
Okay.
I got to see them do their thing recently.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds interesting.
Yes, it is interesting.
But between the lack of time and the lack of money, I am not able to participate.
And that's okay. There
Yeah.
there are other ways that we can bruise and batter you into submission.
Yes, that's true. I could, just run head first into my shed.
We like to call you Battering Ram for that.
I just made up a Toy Story with the T-Rex.
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't want to use my head.
Oh, good times. But it's, well, first of all, I mean, disclaimer, you can get injured doing live steel.
And potentially killed.
Possibly, although that's more remote.
Yeah.
I mean, technically we could get killed just by trying to drive to the convenience store. So
True.
It's all perspective.
We have a mime in the background.
Attack of the Mimes. they're exploring what we're saying. Actually, just one of them is. But you could get, potentially killed just driving to the convenience store. So it really goes. Thank you, Sir Frederick, aka John D. But it has a really interesting history. First of all, I mean they're using fighting styles and weapons from the 14th century, and this was a pretty big deal in Europe, which the leader of the Wild Boars is in the U.S. Army and has been stationed in Europe, and has trained with that for a long time. So he's bringing this to the United States. There's like only 5 groups that do this in all of the United States. So it's a pretty small, relatively elite group of fighters, and they'll be at White Hart Renaissance Fair near Hartville this month, each weekend of this month. Check out their stuff, but they will be at State of the Ozarks Fest.
Yeah, they're going to be doing live fighting.
Yes, right on the street.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be our job to rope off the space so an innocent bystander doesn't get hit in the head with a mace.
Yeah. I mean, if you see 2 guys in full armor swinging at each other with metal sticks, and you intentionally decide to walk past said people, do not complain if you get hit.
This is true. Oh, this is true. But you know what they say, safety first.
Yeah. It's kind of getting kicked in the face. Like you watch the foot come to your face.
Watch it just come right in there. It was actually really, it was kind of cool. The main leader dude, I'll have video out. His name's Jeff.
Yeah.
He has a lot of gravitas. He knows his stuff, and basically what I said, because I've done a little bit of filming of them, of the live fights, and basically what I said was, you tell me where to be. I don't know exactly what's going on, so you position me. So what he did, he got them lined up, and then we stepped up, and he just hooked his fingers around my belt loop on the side, and was like, just go where I pull or push you, so that you can film, but you won't be in the way.
Oh.
So that's what the videos consisted of, and it was nice because I could just focus on the filming without, worrying about like second guessing myself in terms of, am I in the way? Are they going to hit me?
Right.
Those types of things, and it was cool. We'll have those videos up on YouTube and also on Facebook.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But they will not be at Writers Artist Night.
Right.
And let's see, you've participated as helping. You've not participated in the event.
Yes, because I am neither a writer nor am I an artist.
But one of the things that I really love about having you involved is that to me, you are State of the Ozarks everyman. I mean, I'm serious about that. So many of the people, myself included, who work on State of the Ozarks, we are so inured within what it is that we do. It's very easy to get blinders on and be like, oh, normal? I don't even know what normal is anymore. Of course, I don't think I've known what normal is, but a very long time. And one of the things that you bring to the table is just a very, and I consider this a compliment, a very normal perspective to the world and to this crazy esoteric creature that we call State of the Ozarks.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys have heard my stances on aliens and ghosts, so
yeah,
why not throw me in with a bunch of artists and
exactly.
more scared of them than I am the aliens.
As an artist myself, I say I can relate to the aliens and ghosts. So it's all good. It really is, and I think we're going off on a little bit of a tangent on this, but there is so much of disagreement and dichotomy and, oh, you don't think the way I think, ooh, bad. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's perfectly okay to put out there and celebrate out there and put normal and celebrate normal and just, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like art.
Yes.
Now, I'm not gonna look at a painting and pay attention to the brush strokes or the colors or anything. I'm just going to look at it and go, it's pretty, you like. And that's pretty much going to be the extent of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's all right. I mean, we need that.
Yeah.
We need that too. So, but like I said, you've been at Writers Artists events, you've been at, and we've been doing this for a long time now.
Yeah.
Tell me your perspective of what happens.
Well, first of all, it's usually pretty warm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
June.
Warning. Yeah, it's June, so it's hot and it's muggy, and it's in a very relatively smaller space. I mean,
yes.
it's like perfect for a small event.
Yes.
And it's at the Vintage Paris Courtyard, which the last 2 times I've been there have just absolutely packed.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's that, and then it's a lot of fun because it's just you can sit down, the people come up, they present their pieces, and then afterwards they show the art, and whether or not the artist decides to go up there and talk about that is up to them. But it's really cool seeing the different things that these artists and writers can come up, or these artists can paint based off these writings, and what these writers can come up with based on whatever is going on in their head at the time. But
it does get as a participating writer, let me just say, it does get a little messy inside my head.
I mean, I can tell you about what some of the stuff last year.
Yeah, we got some wild stuff.
Woo!
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I think so with that, so for people who've not been to one of these, I'll just back up a little bit. This been a process. We've been doing these for several years. As far as I know, there's nothing else quite like it in our regional community.
Yeah.
And what we do is that we collect original written pieces for 1 month in early spring, in March. I collect those pieces, and then starting in April, I share those pieces with regional artists, and those regional artists then create artwork that is inspired in some way by the written word, and then we get together, we collect the artwork, of course I already have the written pieces on file, and we collect the artwork, we already have the pieces on file, and then we get together on in this particular year, we get together on summer solstice on June 21st, also known as St. John's Eve, and we give everyone there an opportunity to share.
Yeah.
And then we hand out a few awards in the form of gift bags.
Yeah. And it's not like it's not, I mean, there is a competition aspect to it, given that you're getting judged and you're getting awards. Yes. But it's not about winning, because if it was, you're going to be, if you're expecting a trophy.
Sorely disappointed with your soup spoon and your bar of soap.
Yes.
Our gift bags consist of handmade wooden spoon, handmade coffee mug, handmade bar of soap. What else is there? Some chocolate and some vintage Paris coffee.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's really neat stuff.
It is, but it's not like you're getting a huge cash prize or something.
Exactly. So if that's what you're gonna obsess over,
yeah, don't. Just don't.
Don't.
It's meant to be about community. It's meant to be about sharing. It's meant to be about knitting people together.
Exactly, because I mean.
Attack of the Weed Eater?
Oh, is that what that is?
I don't know what it is.
It sounds like a very busted weed eater. Anyway.
Sounds more like a chainsaw.
Yeah. What was it? What was that?
Competition.
It's about, promoting the arts, whether it's written or,
Or visual.
in this community, and that's something that this area is severely lacking in.
Yeah.
Because the most art you get in this area is a country song.
I love country songs.
Sorry, not even an original one.
I love tribute cover country songs. I'm being such a pain, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean. Derailed again. All right.
But it's true.
Yeah, I mean, the performing arts is great, but there's also, especially in this area, which I didn't even know about until I started hanging out with you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
And,
I think
a big visual art and literary art community that you do not hear about.
You don't know that they're there.
All you get to hear about is what shows performing what at what time.
Right, and we do have a rack card for that.
Yeah.
I think so I think there's some interesting dichotomy in this. On one hand, from my background, and I grew up with a very different background than you, so for me, the country music shows and Silver Dollar City and all of these things was very much a novelty. For me, this was very new. This was like a cool tourist thing because I used to be a tourist long ago. And with that,
we're never gonna get through this one.
French mimes, the attack of the French mimes. I will get back at you. I will. Not sure when, not sure how. Okay. With the country music shows, there is a novelty there that's really that I can still appreciate. And something that as we move forward, I believe that we'll see. I don't know yet, but I believe that we'll see in terms of the creative community is involving individuals who are from that world and beginning to interview them, beginning to integrate them into this community in ways that we can appreciate what they're doing, because there is an enormous amount of effort and an enormous amount of craft that goes into what they do.
Oh yeah, I mean they have to be very talented to do this, and
yes.
I'm not knocking their skills. I've just been growing up in this area.
Yes.
The economy is very based on March through December. That's it. And it's also based on how many people come into town. Yes.
And with that, essentially the tourism marketing industry, everything puts so much focus. It does put a literal and figurative spotlight on this industry. And as a result, if you're not within that spotlight, there is the sense, I think it's a sin by omission, this sense that if you're not in that system, nobody cares.
And, I mean, you look at the issues we have in this area that largely do not get talked about.
Yes.
You have the homeless...
Yes.
The homeless population, which is very rampant in this area.
We have a huge percentage.
Huge percentage. And a
huge percentage of poverty.
Poverty. A lot of that also comes with drug addictions.
Yes.
And all that, and basic crime that does not get talked about because no one wants to face the facts that there is a problem in this area, and a lot of us do because this area puts so much of its funds into building another frickin' roller coaster on the strip instead of helping the people that are in this town.
Yeah, and I think that's very fair. And it's the risk is really creating, that again, I'm using this word a lot, but creating that dichotomy between people with investors with a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
tourists who at least appear to have a lot of money, and then putting them side by side with people who have very, very little.
Yeah.
It is a growing problem, and it's something that that needs to be talked about.
And you always feel obligated when a tourist comes in and starts, oh, this is such a beautiful place. I feel obligated to be like, oh yeah, it's a very great place to live.
Yes.
Which it is. I love this place. It's very beautiful. But there's more to it than what you see on the surface.
I know. In some cases, you don't have to dig very deeply to find the problems.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how many more times I can step out of work, look around, and see more pillars of light that lead to nowhere that are just going to drive me nuts.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of. I didn't know we were gonna go.
Yeah,
into
we're just kind of
going, but it's real. Something that I'm gonna reference. Issues of quote unquote antisocial behavior, crime, and something that some people might want to throw something at me for. I'm going to reference Jordan Peterson on this. I like Jordan a lot, and something that he was talking about was the areas in which you experience problematic antisocial behavior and crime and that sort of thing is a situation in which you essentially have the haves and the have-nots in immediate proximity to one another. And what that means is you have pardon me. What that means is, say for example, you have a neighborhood with a lot of wealthy people in it, and immediately within visual range you have a ghetto. And the kids, particularly young men, adolescent boys into young men who do not have a lot of guidance, are constantly seeing people who have way more than they do. And the resentment of that contrast is what creates much antisocial behavior and drives crime. The idea that if everybody is all, like if you don't know any better, if you're poor and you don't know any better, there is much less resentment. And I am gonna pull a little bit from some of my family. Some of my family lived off in hills and hollers, and when the Great Depression happened, essentially financially they were so poor that it had no impact on them whatsoever. The 1929 crash, no effect on my grandmother's family because I don't think they even had a bank account. They lived off in a holler. They had a cabin with 2 rooms, 5 kids. Grandpa cut props for the mine, and Grandma had her garden and her cow. And Grandpa shot squirrels and rabbits and went fishing in the creek for food. And they had milk and eggs. That was their life.
Yeah.
And the props and the Grandpa cut was enough to have enough cash money to pay like minimal taxes and buy the few things that they needed. There was no point of comparison. They weren't sitting there looking at somebody across the street who had all of this luxury or whatever. There was no resentment. They didn't know they were poor. And I think that speaks into this issue. But one of the things that we see with Branson is that we have a growing homeless population. We have a growing extended stay population with a lot of people who are barely, they're either single parents or they are, 2 parents, but they're each working multiple jobs, and they are barely making enough to afford essentially to stay in a semi-retrofitted motel room for an exorbitant amount of money. And they're in a loop that they cannot get out. They in many cases, they've heard that there's jobs in Branson. They get here. They many times they have just enough money for enough gas to get them here, they get a job, they get 2 jobs, they get 3 jobs, they get essentially a motel room that was made for a tourist to stay for a night, and now they're trying to live in this space for months and months and months, in some cases years, oftentimes with several kids, sometimes a dog, sometimes more, and there's no way that they can make enough money to either put down a deposit for an apartment, or in some cases even buy a bus ticket to get to like Kansas City, where we have, a large city that has is much better able to serve people in poverty. And it's a trap. If you're growing up in that, and you're sitting there and your parents or your parent can barely afford anything, you're wondering where your next meal comes from, and you're living in a room and right across the street or right across the road, or constantly you're surrounded by what appears to be rich people having fun.
And I mean, of course, I grew up in this area, and I always thought that we were doing well, because we have a house,
yes.
We have, both my parents always had vehicles, we always had food in the cabinets,
yes.
But, you're looking, and it's something that didn't hit me until much later in life, the amount of work that got put in just to provide those things.
It's
between
just
my
yes.
mom worked full time.
Yes.
My dad had multiple jobs.
Yes.
And, me being the youngest, I was mostly brought up by my 2 older sisters.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I, at that point I didn't understand, didn't appreciate. And now that, looking back, I'm like, we weren't as well off as I thought.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I never knew any different. I was never told any different. So I don't have that kind of resentment, like a personal resentment.
Right.
A lot of my biggest issues with the area, obviously, I just voice it, but also how quickly they will burn people.
Yeah.
This is the entertainment industry, and not just in Branson, just as a whole. It's very. We don't need a reason to let you go. If we don't like you, you're gone.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And it can be incredibly fickle.
Mm-hmm. Like, you could spend years and years and years in one place,
and overnight
you lose your job.
Yeah.
You lose the way that you provided for your family.
Yeah, and it's very easy to be angry about that.
Yeah, and I've personally been.
Yeah, you've lived it as well. Mm-hmm. In addition to watching family members go through this.
Watching family members go through that, and went through it twice.
Yeah.
You think I learned the first time. Been burned by the entertainment industry to where it's made me very caustic, and that's why I have such strong opinions.
Yeah, which is very, very fair.
Mm-hmm.
Very fair. And one of the things I like, because State of the Ozarks is about giving the Ozarks a voice. Mm-hmm. This kind of conversation and being candid about it is not something that you get on other platforms.
Right.
Because we all have to be happy,
We live in Branson, Missouri, the live country music capital of the world.
And it's Branson has done some amazing things, mm-hmm. but with that comes a price.
Yeah.
And sometimes that price is human beings.
Yeah. I was literally about to say this. If you look on the surface, this is a beautiful place. I mean, even if you look deeper, it's a beautiful place. But especially if you look at that one area in particular, mm-hmm. if you dig any kind of deeper,
you probably won't like what you find.
Yeah.
And
just because it's painted gold doesn't mean it's not crap.
There's spray paint for everything, mm-hmm. even in the cow field.
Right.
I think that's a good point, and I think that's one of the issues that is driving the success of. I'm going to tie this back around. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's driving the success of Writers Artist Night. And with that, I guarantee you, we started this like 6 years ago. We've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah, and I've only been there like 2.
I know. You were working.
Yeah.
But with that, there is. I guarantee you, if I had the good sense to ask the smart people if this was a good idea, everybody would have told me no.
Mhm.
I guarantee you.
Well, because you're not going to make money off of it.
Well, that and the idea of going, you know, are there writers and artists in this area? Are there, you know, and the idea that, you know, not enough to do an event like this. I guarantee you, especially with the fact that we were focusing on a younger demographic.
Yeah.
You know, 30 and younger, 25 and younger. And I kind of had a feeling, and then we rolled with it.
Mm-hmm.
And every season, every time we do this, we get such a huge outpouring of response. And some of the written pieces are crazy good.
Yeah.
And some of the art pieces are crazy good.
And I just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but I don't care.
Okay.
All right. So this is an event that has gotten pretty, you know, I'd say fairly successful
Yes.
in this area without a single friggin' banjo.
Oh my gosh. That's true. We do pack it out. We do pack it out. I probably shouldn't tell you that I'm going to take up banjo later, should I?
You know what, you do you.
It's all good.
Play it once you actually get decent at it, because my uncle almost got kicked out of a nursing home for trying to play banjo. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not. I just know that he later in life he did try to learn.
I don't even know how to segue from that.
Yeah, there's not a good way.
There's just it's it's difficult to segue from banjo.
Yeah. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. It is.
Yeah, and so we've got some folks lined up.
Yeah,
we don't have to go through the whole list, but
No.
folks can read the whole list online. The roster.
I mean, we've got some reoccurring artists, some familiar faces to the
Yes.
to the scene, of course, like Mary Arnesen.
Mary Arnesen is back, and I'm very very excited about that.
And there's no poop stories.
No
this
poop
go
story.
around.
No poop story from Mary Arnesen
Yeah.
at her request.
Okay.
That long running joke on that.
Yeah. And if you don't know Mary,
You should.
you should.
Mary
You'll
is
know her.
amazing. I love Mary to death. And brilliantly talented. Her work is gorgeous.
Yes.
We've actually have two of Mary's art pieces in the State of the Ozarks headquarters, and love both of them. One of them is actually from a writer's artist night. It's the graveyard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I gave Mary a piece that was not disturbing this time. It was very uplifting at her request. Because the first time, Mary was like, yes, I will do this. And then I gave her a really morbid piece about death. And she's like, really? And so next year came around and she's like, Josh, I will do this as long as you don't give me a graveyard piece. So I gave her a piece about cows pooping. That's what happened. And she was positive I was going to give her a really problematic piece, and I didn't. I gave her a really nice piece this year.
And the cow poop story is, of course, written by Dave Lofton.
Lofton.
Who is also, it looks like he's submitted at least 2 pieces.
Yes. Dave submitted 2 pieces this year.
And his stories and and the way he delivers them has always been hilarious.
Dave is just such a fantastic storyteller. He grew up over in Stone County, and he has memories of his farm. I think this ties in. His family farm was flooded by Table Rock Lake.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he was about 4 years old at the time. He remembers it.
Wow.
And the government came in and said, "This is what you're given. This is what you're getting, an acre, and it wasn't much. This is what you're going to get. You can appeal. If you appeal, you may lose and you may not get anything. You may get less, or you can take what we're giving you and get out.
Wow.
Because you're going to be under, 90 feet of water." And he said, I think the day after they moved out, or 2 days after they moved out, the government structure, they came in and burned their house.
Oh.
And because the water was coming up, and they were getting rid of all the structures that were going to be under the water line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we should get Dave in here sometime just to talk about memories. And who else we got?
A lot of names, a a lot of
new
that,
names.
Yeah, a lot of people that I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's just right here at the top of the list, AJ Blanton.
Yeah. AJ's a writer and has done a lot of photographer. Does a lot of stuff around, especially with the cosplay community.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I don't know if he's been in Writer's Artist Nest before, but I have met him out. Chris Boyd.
Yes, this is Chris Boyd's first participation.
Yeah, and his work is
always absolutely over the top amazing.
Yeah, he works with scroll saw.
Yes, it's called Intarsia, and it's piecing together natural wood to create painting-like creations.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we have some guy named Josh Heston in here.
I'm not participating in the competition, but I am sharing my piece.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're paired up with Seth Daughtry again.
Yes. Oh, Turok. I like that particular pairing. We did that last year.
Yeah. Let's see. Hux.
Yep, Josh Huxtable.
Yep, Josh Huxtable.
And he is paired with Heath Copper.
Yeah.
Excited about that. I love Heath's artwork. Just bought a piece from Heath.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Christina Gilbert, paired with James Shipley.
Yep.
And James's art style is
always crazy wild.
Interesting.
It is. Pen and ink
really
on...
cool.
Really, really cool. Pen and ink on cardboard.
Yeah.
With an emphasis on pattern design.
And it's all freehand, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He does use some stencils, but a lot of it is just layers and layers and layers of ink.
Yeah. And if you look at it, I don't know how to really describe it.
It's mesmerizing. You almost kind of watch the pattern unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got one of his pieces too.
Yep. Looks like Matt Farmer put in a piece.
Yes, he did. I'm excited about that. Matt Farmer submitted a piece. Of course, Matt and Jessica own Vintage Paris.
Yeah, which we referenced earlier.
Yes, we did. Wonderful coffee. He's being paired with another newcomer, Jenny Judlin. Yes, of course, big thanks to Jenny. Jenny was spearheaded a good chunk of Art Walk. Mm-hmm. And she's a brilliant collage artist. I'm super excited to see what this pairing comes up with. And I'm not going through every single name. No, folks can read them online. So I'm just kind of highlighting mostly people that I recognize their names. That's fair. I'm excited. I love it when recurring talent comes back, recurring artists and writers. But one of the things that's really encouraging to me is we had a lot of newcomers. And yep. Trig? Yeah. Trig's coming on. Trig, of course, Trig is Mary's husband. Yep. The only thing that she will not paint on at their house. I know. Yeah. Don't paint on Trig. Or the puppies. But, the last probably reoccurring one that I'm going to reference. Yeah. This one's kind of interesting. Uh-huh. Tiana. Yes, Tiana Sebo. Yeah. Tiana Sage. Super excited to have Tiana back. Tiana's a brilliant writer. Mm-hmm. Love her work immensely. She's a teenager. Yeah. As is her brother, Riven. Mm-hmm. Riven is a State of the Ozarks intern. Yeah. They're both teenagers. And we worked with them very closely for a couple of years. Yeah. And then they have had to move back to Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So they're living in Connecticut now, going to school in Connecticut. Because Riven's work as an intern predominantly focused on on video and YouTube. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to stop the internship. Right. Because you can do that anywhere. Yeah. And we FaceTime on a pretty regular basis. I need to message him tonight actually. And I love Tiana's work. So she submitted a piece, and she will be back from Connecticut. Yeah. To present. She is coming all the way from Connecticut. Yes, to present at State of the Ozarks Writers Artist Night on summer solstice. That is dedication. It is dedication. I'm thrilled. I love the piece. It's like this weird dystopian thing, future stuff. It's glorious. And she's paired with a State of the Ozarks member, who's also still a teenager. Yeah. Caitlin Robinson. Yeah. As the artist. So, and they always do good work because they've been paired together the past several times. Yeah, they have won an event before. I love that pairing, and really okay. So just as a heads up, quick warning: prepare yourself emotionally. So many pieces, not all of them, but so many pieces this year are so incredibly morbid and deal with death. Yeah, really do. I finally kind of like put it together. I'm like, I don't know what it is about this, but it's dark. It's really dark. I love it, including mine.
Yeah.
My piece, my piece deals with death as well. It's just, but I think there's a great deal of catharsis in this, that especially in the live music capital of the United States, where we are told we have to be happy. That I think part of the catharsis is the need to vent, essentially, and say, no, life is not always rosy, and we have dark issues, and we got to talk about
Like,
them.
what do you think I just did for 15 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. That's your art.
Yeah. My art's flying off the handle, I guess.
It's all good. I love it. Well, but more importantly, I don't love it for the sake that it's dark. I love it for the sake that it's honest.
Yes.
And that is something that I think is very, very powerful. It gets missed. Just because everything's nice doesn't necessarily mean that it's honest. And it's crucial that we are truthful and as honest as we possibly can be about the situations that we're dealing with.
Like the new spinny ride. Both of them.
You gonna go?
Heck no. It's probably like $25 just to ride once. Are you kidding me?
I haven't checked. It's for the tourists.
Yeah, whatever.
More spinning.
Yeah.
So for folks who are interested in coming to Writers Artist Night, they just show up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a free entry
Yeah.
at Vintage Paris again on the courtyard.
Yeah. You may need to bring some lawn chairs.
Yeah, we will. I mean, there will be chairs there, but it's very first come first served seating.
Yeah.
So
we will set out about 90 chairs.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are going to get filled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So,
you know, if you want your own comfy chair, because these are just going to be metal folding chairs from Smyrna Baptist Church.
Yeah, that's exactly where they're coming from.
So if you want your own comfy chair, bring it. If
you're
not,
welcome to.
then don't complain about standing.
Yeah, exactly. And this has been repeatedly a standing room only event.
Yeah.
It really has. It's glorious. Of course, some pretty doggone good coffee.
Yeah, of course.
And pastries and beer and wine. And I am going to wait until all the entries are done this time, and I am officially off work before I drink any alcohol. Just throwing that out there this time. Caught some flack last year.
I bet.
Yeah. So, and that was unfortunate. I'm still going to obviously split a bottle of Writer's Block with Sir Frederick, but it will be after we conclude and everything's done, and I may turn my phone off for the next day.
Yeah, I've got to get up early the next morning because I have to be in Bolivar at 8.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. For orientation?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, I just want to say one more thing.
Yes, absolutely. Banjos.
Tourists pay my bills.
Yes.
I don't hate them.
That's fair.
Just want to get that out of the way.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. It's all good.
Yeah.
This is one of the things, and I will addendum